Hello, today I'm looking at Majjhima Nikaya number 51, which is called the Kandaraka Sutta, which is translated as to Kandaraka. The location is a place called Kampa on the banks of the Gagara lake. And the people involved are Buddha, a person called Pesa, who's an elephant driver's son, and Kandaraka, the wanderer, and also the bhikkhus and monks, or the followers of Buddha. And Kandaraka speaks first, addressing Buddha, marvelling on the number of followers he has and how they diligently follow the practice. Buddha explains that among this community there are arahants with taints destroyed and completely liberated through final knowledge. There are bhikkhus in higher training, living a life of constant virtue, constant wisdom. They abide with their minds well established in the four foundations of mindfulness. A bhikkhu abides contemplating the body as a body, fully aware, mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. He abides contemplating feelings as feelings, fully aware, mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. He abides contemplating mind as mind, fully aware, mindful, having putting away covetousness and grief for the world. He abides contemplating the mind objects as mind objects, mindful, fully aware, having putting away covetousness and grief for the world. Pesa, the elephant driver's son, then speaks, marvelling at how the four foundations of mindfulness have been made known by Buddha. For the purification of beings, for the surmounting of sorrows and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and grief, for the attainment of the true way, for the realization of Nibbana. Pesa continues, we lay people also from time to time abide with our minds well established in the four foundations of mindfulness, contemplating the body as the body, feelings as feelings, mind as mind, mind objects as mind objects. It is marvellous, Venerable Sir, how amid man's tangles, corruptions and deceptions, the Blessed One knows the welfare and harm of beings. For humankind is a tangle, but the animal is open enough. I can drive an elephant to be tamed, and by the time I make a trip back and forth to Kampa, the elephant will show every kind of deception, duplicity, crookedness and fraud that he is capable of, whereas humans behave in one way with their body, in another way with speech, and their minds work in yet another way. So it is wonderful, Venerable Sir, how amid man's tangle, corruption and deception, that the Blessed One knows the welfare and harm of human beings. For humankind is a tangle, but the animal is open enough. That is true, Buddha replies. There are in fact four kinds of people existing in the world. There are those that torment themselves and torture themselves. There are those that torment others and torture others. There are those that torment and torture themselves and torment and torture others. And there are those that neither torment or torture themselves or others. The last group is here and now hungerless, extinguished and content, abide experiencing bliss, having become holy. Buddha then asked Pesa, the elephant driver's son, which of these four kinds satisfy your mind? The last one, Pesa replies. Then why not the first three? Pesa replies, the person who torments and tortures himself pursues this practice despite the fact he desires pleasure and recoils from pain. The person who tortures and torments others torments and tortures others who desire pleasure and recoil from pain. The person who both torments and tortures himself and others, yet all desire pleasure and recoil from pain. That is why none of these people satisfy my mind, but the fourth person, who neither torments nor tortures himself nor others, this is the kind of person who satisfies my mind. After this, Pesa departs and continues on his daily tasks. Buddha soon after addresses his followers, saying, "This elephant driver's son Pesa showed great wisdom, but he would have benefited more if he had stayed longer." So Buddha's followers ask what else Buddha would have said. Buddha replies, "So what kind of person torments himself and tortures himself? This is a person who goes naked, rejecting conventions, licking his hands, not coming when asked, not stopping when asked, does not accept food, either brought or especially made, does not accept food from two eating together or from a pregnant woman." Buddha continues to list all sorts of diverse eating habits, taking food once a day, once every 2 days, once a fortnight, eating only greens or millet, or lives in a forest roots and fruit. This person's clothing must be refuse bags or clothes made from shrouds or tree bark, animal wool, pulls out his own hair, stands continuously or squats continuously, uses a bed of nails. This is the kind of person who torments himself and pursues the practice of self-mortification. So basically, I think Buddha is describing an extreme ascetic. He continues, "And what kind of person torments others and tortures others? This person is a butcher of sheep, of pigs, birds, wild beasts, a hunter, a fisherman, a thief, an executioner, a prison warder, or one who follows any other such bloody occupation." So that's the one that mentioned in the Eightfold Path, I think, the right livelihood. Buddha continues, "And what kind of person torments and tortures himself and others? Here, this person might be a noble king or a well-to-do Brahmin who builds a sacrificial temple, shaves himself, dresses himself in rough hide, greases his body with oil, lies down on bare ground strewn with grass, lives off the milk from a cow, sacrifices bulls, bullocks, heifers, goats and sheep, fells forests for sacrificial posts, spurring on his slaves and servants with threats of punishment. This is the kind of person who torments himself and pursues the practice of torturing others. And what kind of person, bhikkhu, does not torment himself or torture himself and does not torment others or pursue the practice of tormenting others? This, the one who, since he torments neither himself nor torments others, is here and now hungerless, is extinguished and cooled, and abides experiencing bliss, having himself become holy. Here, bhikkhus, a Tathagata appears in the world, accomplished, fully enlightened, perfect in true knowledge and conduct, sublime knower of worlds, incomparable leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, enlightened and blessed. He sees the world with its gods and maras by direct knowledge. He teaches the Dhamma well and lives a perfect and pure holy life. Thus, a young person hears this Dhamma, decides it is not easy to practice whilst living with a household, so he takes up the yellow robe and goes into a life of homelessness, abandoning a small or large fortune, abandoning a small or large circle of relatives. He takes up the precepts, abandoning killing of living beings, compassionate to all living beings, abandoning taking that which is not given, taking only what is given, abandons in celibacy, he observes celibacy, abandons false speech, speaks truth and is trustworthy and reliable, abandons malicious speech, does not repeat elsewhere what he has heard that may divide people. He becomes a promoter of friendships who enjoys concord. He abandons harsh speech. He speaks words that are gentle to the ear and courteous. He abandons gossip, speaks only at the right time, speaks facts, speaks to the Dhamma and the discipline. He abstains from injuring seeds and plants, eats 1 meal a day and does not eat at night. He abstains from dancing, singing, music, theatrical shows. He abstains from wearing garlands and using scent. He abstains from high and large couches and from accepting gold and silver. He abstains from accepting raw grain and raw meat. He abstains from accepting women and girls, from accepting men and women slaves. He abstains from accepting goats, sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses and mares. He abstains from accepting fields and land. He abstains from going on errands and running messages. He abstains from false weights, metals and measures. He abstains from accepting bribes, deceiving, fraud, trickery. He abstains from wounding, murder, plunder and violence. He becomes content with robes to protect his body and alms food to maintain his stomach. Possessing this aggregate of noble virtue, he experiences within himself a bliss that is blameless. On seeing a form with his eye, he does not grasp at it. He practices the way of restraint. So too with the ear, nose, tongue, body, mind faculty, he practices the way of restraint. If he left the faculties unguarded, evil, unwholesome states of covetousness and grief might invade him. Possessing this noble restraint, the faculties, he experiences within himself a bliss that is unsullied. He becomes one who acts in full awareness when going forward and returning, looking ahead and looking away. In all actions, he acts in full awareness. Possessing this aggregate noble virtue, restraint of the faculties, noble mindfulness and full awareness, he resorts to a secluded place, where on returning from his alms round, he sits down, folds his legs crosswise, sets his body erect and establishes mindfulness. He abandons covetousness and ill will, has compassion for all living beings. He abandons sloth and torpor. Percipient of light, mindfulness and mindful and fully aware, he abandons restlessness and remorse, abiding unagitated with inner peace. He abandons doubt, unperplexed about wholesome states. Having thus abandoned the 5 hindrances, he enters the first jhana. The sutta then again, as per previous suttas, passes through the jhana states. Summarised as follows, and that's my rendition of the bit there. So in the first jhana, applied and sustained thought, with rapture and pleasures born of seclusion. With the second jhana, self-confidence, singleness of mind, without applied sustained thought, with rapture and pleasure born of concentration. With the fading away of rapture, he abides in equanimity, mindful and fully aware. Still feeling pleasure with the body, he enters upon and abides in the third jhana. Here he has a pleasant abiding with equanimity and mindfulness. He then enters upon the fourth jhana. After abandoning pleasure and pain, with the previous disappearance of joy and grief, the fourth jhana, which has neither pain nor pleasure, and purity of mindfulness due to equanimity. In this state of concentration, purified, bright, unblemished, rid of imperfections, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs his mind to the recollection of past lives. 1 birth, 2 births, 100,000 births, many eons of world contraction and expansion. There I was so named of such a clan, with such an appearance, such was my nutriment, such my experience of pleasure and pain, such my life term, and so to my next life, where I was so named of such a clan, and so on and so forth. He then directs his mind to knowledge of the passing away and reappearance of beings, inferior, superior, fair and ugly, fortunate and unfortunate. He understands how beings pass on according to their actions. Those who were ill conducted and taken wrong view, after death they appear in a state of deprivation, in a bad destination. But those worthy beings who were well conducted in body, speech and mind, After death, they reappear in a good destination, even in the heavenly world. He then directs his mind to destruction of the taints. He understands as it actually is. This is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. He understands as it actually is. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. He understands as it actually is. This is the origin of the taints. This is the cessation of the taints. This is the way leading to the cessation of the taints. When he knows and sees thus, his mind is liberated from the taint of sensual desire, from the taint of being, from the taint of ignorance. So I've sort of understood taint to mean an undesirable quality. So when the mind is liberated from these taints or undesirable qualities, he understands it is liberated. He understands birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what has to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. This, bhikkhus, Buddha continues, is called the kind of person who does not torment himself or pursue the practice of torturing himself, and who does not torment others or pursue the practice of tormenting others. Since this is so, he is here and now hungerless, extinguished, cooled, and abides experiencing bliss, having himself become holy. And that's the end of Sutta number 51. Thanks for watching.